National Catholic Register. This is Register Radio, bringing light and clarity to the news and topics that affect your life.
Baseball, LGBTQ plus pride, a troop of men grotesquely dressed in nuns' habits receiving honors for their so-called charity work, and other men dressed in women's jerseys receiving top prizes in women's competition. Then throw into the middle of all of this Father's Day. These are the marks of the month of June. How did we get into this madness, and where do we go from here? Two authors and fellows at the Ethics and Public Policy Center offer their insights here on Register Radio. We're joined by Carrie Gress and Noelle Mering. I'm Jeanette DeMello, Executive Director of the National Catholic Register, your host on Register Radio. On Friday, June 16th, the Feast of the Sacred Heart, the Los Angeles Dodgers hosted the so-called Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence for what the Dodgers called charity work to those who identify as LGBTQ+. And the U.S. bishops asked Catholics to pray for this occasion, just to pray for conversion of heart, to entrust our country to the Sacred Heart. Some boycotted, some protested. But really, we asked the question, what should we do in moments like these? And today, I think our guest, Carrie Gress, gives us some good examples, some good insights into how we got here. Carrie has a PhD in philosophy. She's a fellow at the Ethics and Public Policy Center and a scholar at the Institute for Human Ecology at the Catholic University of America. She's the editor of an online magazine called Theology of Home and its book series as well with Noelle Mering. And she's written several books. Her most recent is The End of Woman, How Smashing the Patriarchy Has Destroyed Us. And I'm very pleased to have Carrie join us today. Welcome, Carrie.
Thanks so much for having me on. Great to be here.
So your latest column just struck me as really an appropriate response to this madness, this moment we're in. And June is always that mad month, where pride, so-called gay pride, is just everywhere you look. Your column that you wrote recently for the Register was called LGBTQ+ May Seem New, but it grew from an old ideology. And that's really intriguing because we didn't just get to this crazy month overnight. And I think you recognize that really well. So where do we start?
Yeah, well, I think this is a huge question that people have been asking, and a lot of us feel like this is new. It just came out of nowhere, and yet it's really an outgrowth of early feminism. This was one of the fascinating things about researching my book. I didn't know what I would find in early feminism. I sort of thought there would be a lot of nice platitudes about womanhood and whatnot, and I discovered something so much more sinister. And the first issue is really the question of that was the presumption of early feminism, which is how do we make women more like men? And I think we've had about 200 years for this question to really unfold itself, and this is why we're seeing this attack on womanhood. This is why women can't define what it means to be a woman, and really the pinnacle is this this transforming that we're seeing happen with girls' bodies. Top surgeries and testosterone, and this promise that women can actually be men. So it's an amazing juxtaposition to sort of see how this has developed, and yet it's spread out. It's not obviously just happening to women. Men are having transforming surgeries as well. So it's a real problem, but it goes back to these very early roots of feminism that also was really focused on free love and the occult and just transforming society. So it shouldn't really surprise us that this is it's gotten to this point that we're at today.
Right, and you mentioned just how difficult it is sometimes today to define what it is to be a woman, and it is a reality that young women right now are the ones affected the most, and you can see it. I mean, teenage years or preteen years are always awkward for men and women, for boys and girls. But today you see young women not even knowing how to be feminine because it's the idea of being woke is to be kind of above all that, to be above femininity or masculinity, and there's confusion, and sometimes the community that accepts them the most is the wokest, community. It seems.
Right.
How did this come from that early feminism, which seemed to simply want to provide, in a way, opportunity, a seat at the table?
Yeah. I think that's kind of the sense that most people have of what feminism has done, and yet, if you look at what it's really done, is it's taken away this idea of womanhood. This was the activists of the 60s and 70s were very outspoken about this and saw that lesbianism was actually, they believed that it was the highest form of human behavior, and that there's something wrong with heterosexual relationships because of the fact that they involved having children. So we haven't actually said anything good about being a woman for about 50 years because this has been the push. We certainly haven't been promoting motherhood, and so this is why there is all this confusion. It's not a wonder that young girls would not want to become a woman when there's nothing in the culture that's telling them it's a good thing. At the same time, we also have this fascinating emergence of really the pet culture, I think, in our society that's sort of picking up where motherhood, women have this deep desire to mother others. And, we're seeing as people are having fewer and fewer children, we're just taking on this new role as, having fur babies or, pet mamas or whatever they're being called. One of the statistics I stumbled upon is that we spend $700 million on pet costumes at Halloween in our culture, in our country. So I think that there's really this gaping hole of this desire for motherhood, and we see that among the young too, who haven't been properly mothered because we just didn't think it was important as a culture. We were told there was something wrong with it. So that what they're finding online is the kind of support and mothering that they're longing for, some of the attention and that unconditional love that's what mothers have always brought to the table, and I have been told not to. So yeah, it's incredibly tragic to see how twisted so much of this has become, and the answers are really so simple. We've just made them very complicated.
How do we work ourselves out of this? I mean, your book offers insights into early feminism. It's probably going to irritate a lot of people because even some of the champions are caught up in it, maybe inadvertently, but I have to read because I haven't read it yet. But where do we go, Carrie? I mean, you have young kids, I do too, and we wish for a better future for them. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's the remarkable thing is we just have to start looking at what my book does is it goes into these issues and helps us understand them instead of perpetuating the confusion, I think, about womanhood. And I think we have to get back to that notion of what womanhood is. And the church is so well poised to do this because we have these amazing models in our saints. We have it, built into the fabric of the church. The ideas of virginity and of motherhood are really, really important. And I think when we strip those out, which is exactly what was targeted in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, by radical feminism, that's when we really start seeing these problems. So we've got at our fingertips all of the answers. It's just a matter of really starting to recognize them again and to really point out just the beauty of motherhood. And we can see the beauty in religious sisters. I mean, it's no accident that religious sisters are being targeted just this week by the Dodgers. This is all very intentional, to sort of take away and degrade these things that are so beautiful and so vital for a thriving civilization and culture. So I think that this, it's just a matter of getting back to the basics and not complicating, what has been part of our tradition for well over 2,000 years in terms of womanhood. Carrie, I can't help but now, as you say that, ask about theology of home. This is just a wonderful community, I think, that you and Noelle have brought to women online, Catholic women, and others. Why is that so important for this moment as a response?
Yeah, well, I think it's really vitally important. Partially, when I was researching my book, The Anti-Mary Exposed, it occurred to me the way the culture has been destroyed, and it's through modeling that we see, the modeling of womanhood that we see in things like magazines and politics and Hollywood. We get over and over told in very nonverbal ways how it is that we ought to act as women. And I thought, why are we not doing that, as Catholics? Why are we not helping women have an idea of what it looks like to be a real woman, to be a mother, and to want to take care of others? Why are we not doing this to spread our own messaging instead of just, I can all day long talk about the problems and where they've come from. But if I'm not providing a way out of that, then, there's something missing. And that's really what Theology of Home, I think, is offering, is kind of that opposite side of the coin of, okay, here's, I can put out the problems on one side, but I want to put out a solution simultaneously and let people know this is what it looks like to be a healthy, happy, ordered mother and family. And, obviously things are never going to be perfect, but it can look a lot better and be a lot healthier than what is being portrayed in the culture right now. And I think that's the amazing thing, is we have the best, we have the answers to the desires of the hearts of women. And for some reason, I feel like we've been afraid to tell women that, even though all the statistics tell us that. We know women are not happy. We know that they are longing for more in their life. We know they want long-term committed relationships. We know they want children. And so what we're doing is trying to offer a very, beautiful and visual model of what that looks like, and instead of just, giving the culture away entirely to these really awful and destructive models.
Right. So I'm going to point our listeners to theologyofhome.com. And it's just a wonderful place, as Carrie says. It invites you into something very different, but very much a home. And I think that women really long for that. They long to give themselves in caring, but they also long to make a home for others. And it's very, very present in this website. Carrie, I also want to invite people to read your book. So where can they find it?
Yeah, so it's available for pre-order right now on all the usual places. If people want a signed copy, they can get one through theologyofhome.com. We've got them for pre-order, and I'm signing them, or they can be personalized to people if that's what people want, the author's signature. So, yeah, it comes out August 15th, and it's going to be really interesting to see how it's received. It's my first thoroughly secular book, but, of course, so many of the principles are really driven by Catholic theology and philosophy. And, it's just going to be really interesting to see how it all unfolds.
Well, we can pray for that success, so that the truth be told and received, and that we may start a quiet, peaceful revolution of heart. But I just want to repeat the name of it. It is End of Woman, How Smashing the Patriarchy Has Destroyed Us. And I also want to point to Carrie Gress's article at ncregister.com. LGBTQ+ may seem new, but it grew from an old ideology. Carrie, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks so much for having me on.
When we come back, we turn to Father's Day and hear Register columnist Noelle Mering on the indispensability of fathers. This is Register Radio on EWTN. Stay tuned for more.
If you need your news on the go, read the Register online. But if you want to take your time and savor the stories, then subscribe to the National Catholic Register's print edition. And with award-winning Catholic journalism that goes beyond what you'll find from any secular news service, you'll get the real story behind the events that unfold over the course of the year. Try the Register for free today and get it delivered to your home, office, or parish. Join the Catholics who depend on the Register for its faithful and courageous reporting. Get 6 issues free today online at ncregister.com/radio or call 800-421-3230 and mention code radio. That's ncregister.com/radio or call 800-421-3230 and mention code radio. The National Catholic Register. Read faithfully.
Let's return to Register Radio on EWTN.
Welcome back. I'm Jeanette DeMello, Executive Director of the National Catholic Register, and I want to say Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. With Father's Day this weekend, we have the opportunity not only to love on our dads, but really to reflect on the crucial role that fatherhood inevitably plays in our lives. And for that reason, I have invited Noelle Mering to the show. She is a dynamic duo with Carrie Gress, who we just heard from, at theologyofhome.com. Noelle is a fellow at the Ethics and Public Policy Center as well, and she's the author of Awake, Not Woke, A Christian Response to the Cult of Progressive Ideology. And she's also a co-author of the Theology of Home series. So on June 18th print edition, when I was proofing that print edition, I stumbled across Noelle's column, The Strong Man is a Holy Man, and it was all about Father's Day, and it really struck me to the core. So Noelle, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me on.
And I want to say, first of all, I know this Father's Day is going to be a bittersweet one for you, and I'm sorry for your dad's passing in the last year, and I'm really grateful that you shared that experience with our audience, and not only here, but in the column that you wrote.
Yeah, no, thank you. I had a lot of time to reflect on fatherhood. It's always been a subject that I love, but particularly with my dad's passing, it's just been something I've been ruminating over and just feeling so grateful for the experience of having been fathered well and how important that is.
Yes, and first I want you to tell a little about your dad, because he was the beginning of this column that really touched me so much. And so, tell us who your dad was.
Sure. So he passed away in his 80s. He had a nice long life. He was an attorney, but he was really a philosopher, and he was a real intellectual, very intellectually curious, but also curious about other people and very engaging. And I think I just grew up really admiring him. I felt a sort of reverence about who he was and felt so grateful to be his daughter. And I also had a deep sense that he absolutely delighted in me. And it strikes me that, that combination of sort of someone you revere, loving you personally, is really such a powerful reflection of how compelling fatherhood in general is. That there's a certain reverence that that there are boundaries in life, that there is a law that we should, should be subjected to. But we also know that law is for the sake of our freedom, that we are loved, and it's for our good that there are those kind of disciplines in life. And I think I really got that sense from him that I need to, aspire to something greater, but that I had a confidence in doing so because I had a father who believed in me. And that really gave me a great leg up in life, I feel like. And it strikes me that, in society now we denigrate fatherhood so often, but, there's almost no greater, we're one of the best privileges you can have. We're all the talk of privilege. Having a good father is, right up there with the best of them.
And that's really what struck me. You wrote, it is a true privilege in life. If there is a true privilege in life, it might just be having a good dad. And you describe how it made you secure and brave, ready to take risks in life, ready to be who you are. And I think that is so true, that our dads really can provide that by a few things. One is their presence, right? I mean, just being there and being present in such a loving way is so important. You write about not only your dad's presence and your dad's love, but the spiritual fathers who have walked with you too, even in your dad's time of sickness and his passing.
Yeah, it was really incredible. I mean, just in the the months leading up to his passing, that I have dear priest friends who at the drop of a hat would drive long distances to come, give him spiritual guidance, bring the sacraments, bless him, anointing the sick, and it was, these are abilities that have come with spiritual fatherhood that we can't drum up in ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Just the specialness of the spiritual fatherhood. And then even just seeing, my husband, my brother-in-law, my sons, my nephews, my mom and sister and I could no longer physically lift him at some point. And so we needed these men. We needed these fathers and these future fathers. And, it was just striking to me how absolutely essential that true masculinity is, that's generous, that is outward focused, that's servant oriented, but it's also strong.
Right.
And that was so present to me in those days.
It's so fun for me to have both you and Carrie on this show because of your writing together. Not only theologyofhome.com but your books. So much of it talks about really the complementarity of the sexes, what it means to be female, what it means to be male, and to live that to the fullness. So you're writing in this piece about the fatherhood, and we just spoke about femininity and the dangers of toxic femininity, and so now it's so good to talk about the complementary aspects of it. You write about how that is not understood anymore, and you write about it through the experience of your husband basically being ready to give his daughter away to her future spouse. So describe that experience and just what you saw in your own husband as he made this another step of fatherhood.
Yeah, no, it was really lovely, actually. Her now fiancé called him to ask for his fatherly blessing. And my husband, he had to pause because he had to compose himself. And then, he told him how delighted he was to welcome him to the family and gave his blessing. And then he said, and I said, what did you say after that? And I said, the only thing I could think of, which was, I just asked him if he could tell me about his prayer life.
That's amazing.
And that was so striking to me. That was the foremost question on his mind. My husband is a man who prays deeply and devotedly, and he knows how much that is the absolute crucial aspect to his being a husband and being a father and being a child of God, and just to have that shared connection with this man who is going to be our son-in-law and a future father, God willing, that they both turn towards their mutual father, to God Himself. And I think there's a beauty, a deeply beautiful masculine fatherly trait that's expressed in that. And one of the things that I was really struck by is that, as the culture kind of tries to denigrate the idea that there's any such thing that's uniquely beautiful masculinity at all, we really come up with only caricatures of masculinity. So,
right.
We think of manliness as being like a football player or, machismo or, I don't know, or we mock it as being, something that is, a weakness or a bravado, when true masculinity is deep and beautiful. And I think that as we move away from that, we see cartoons of womanhood and cartoons of masculinity, and both are ridiculous performances of something that is important and essential and very meaningful.
And you talk about the protector, the need, not only, their strength, you mentioned that in this conversation, but they are protectors, and that is innate in them, to be protectors. You speak of an image in your column of the Good Shepherd, of Christ the Good Shepherd, and how sometimes that image, when we see it depicted, is, of Christ carrying a sheep. It's tender. It's kind of a soft image, but that is not at all what a shepherd really would have looked like, carrying a sheep on his shoulders that had gone lost, right?
That's right. I mean, I think we have it conjures up a saccharine image in our mind, but his listeners, our Lord's listeners at the time, would have understood the role of the shepherd is a grisly life, that he had to ward off beasts, sometimes with only his staff, and that he would lay his body and potentially his life down at the opening to the sheepfold every night in order to protect the flock. I think we've gotten away from this because the shepherd has been targeted, both figuratively and literally, as we see with smashing the patriarchy. And I think cultural revolutionaries target the shepherd because they want access to the sheep. Mm-hmm. And we only will understand the combination of authority and innocence if we retain both. And so insofar as we lose the understanding that there are real threats to the innocent in this world, we lose the conception and real mission of the father and of as a protector. And it's so crucial that we retain the clarity about both.
Yes, you write, and I loved this line, and I read your column to my husband, and he loved it as well. And I love this line. Real men, you're writing, they know that the strong man is the holy man, and that a good father has nothing to do with seeking power and everything to do with perseverance in prayer. I thought of, seeking power or seeking money or seeking, the biggest house and all of these provisions that, men are expected in a way to provide for us. But really, perseverance in prayer and the type of protection they can provide to the heart of the home, to the women and to their children, in just protecting our ability to be holy and to be who we are is so crucial, so important. Your column offered a point of reflection for my husband and me. Are we seeking that? Is that the kind of family we want to have? I would love to get your thoughts as we are about to close on what we can do to protect fatherhood, to lift it up, to hoist it up, so that we can all help others to live it.
Yeah. I mean, I think with most things, the best thing to do is modeling it, right? So men modeling it and mentoring other men. I think we really need to have men have strong influences and mentorship in their lives so that they can see, I have this mission and I want to live out this mission. And look, here it is embodied before me by an older father or what have you. And I think as women, too, that we are, singing the praises of good fathers, that we are openly and clearly exalting that in society, reminding people of its importance and its indispensability. I think that can be a powerful witness, too.
Absolutely. And I just want to thank you for the work that you are doing, both your books, your writing at the Register and other places, and the theology of home.com. It is inspiring. I know many, many women who take inspiration from that and then are able to go and to lift their husbands up and encourage them in where they are. So I just appreciate it a lot, Noelle.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, no, it's been a wonderful journey for Carrie and me, and we've loved the community we built around it, and seeing so many families flourish, just reflecting that back into the world of the culture. I think those positive messages go a long way to fight the negative messages that have been pushed on us for so long. So thank you.
Absolutely. So Noelle's article is The Strong Man is the Holy Man, and it can be found at ncregister.com. There's a lot more news, analysis, and commentary at ncregister.com. Thanks for joining us on Register Radio here on EWTN. For Jeff Burson, my producer, and myself, Jeanette DeMello, I pray that until next week, God bless you, and happy Father's Day to all the fathers.